Welcome to a Skewed Chimp.
When I made my intro video, I made a point that I would share my failures as well as my success. It's important to me that I do that actually, and I don't feel like there's enough of it out there. Most of the wood turning videos I see look clear and polished, as though everything's gone perfectly. For me though, this stuff goes south, quickly, and it does it a lot. It can lead to a lot of self-doubt and second-guessing. That's why I decided it was important to share my failures for others to see. Maybe that'll help somebody else figure out that they're not the only ones that struggle when they're having a hard time getting started. One of the very best turners out there, and one of my personal favorites, is Yuval Lahav, which is why I chose one of his pieces as part of my intro. I'll link to his channel in the description. Yuval may well be the most creative wood turner I know of, and I often see him doing things that no one else has done before. I'd say he's the creator of at least 4 of my 10 favorite pieces from all the wood turning videos I've ever watched. One of my favorite videos of his is not one that comes out beautiful, however. It's one where he fails to create his project and it falls apart on him. When someone that advanced shares those types of human moments, it reassures me that it's okay to not have everything go right. While making a project look perfect on video can be cool, showing your true self can help inspire others. Yuval, and a couple of other turners that I watch religiously, do that for me. Maybe by sharing my mistakes it makes it easier for others to share theirs. Sharing my mistakes also means you get a chance to give me hints and tips. I'm not above taking good advice from those that have been where I want to go. I doubt that I'll ever be the level of turner that Yuval is, and I don't think I'll ever be as inspirational as he is. But I do want everyone out there to know that no matter how far I advance, I definitely do make mistakes. And I do it all the time. One of my first failures is that I didn't always have the best camera. I didn't have good video software, and I didn't always know what I was doing with either one of them anyway. The result is that even when I tried, I couldn't always get video of my early projects. I'm not promising much better performance in the future either. For now, I'll just have to show you things and explain what happened to them. I'll do my best. In this case, we have several items. I had hoped that this would turn into 2 shot glasses. This thing was supposed to be a top. This was supposed to be... well, it's a toothpick holder now. Finally, this was supposed to be a bowl, and it mostly is, but it's not quite what I had set out to do. Let's start with this beautiful piece of walnut. The guy who sold me the lathe threw it in for free, which was pretty cool of him. You can tell by the sealing wax on the base that it was purchased retail and it doesn't have any cracks or anything in it. I decided I was going to make a couple of shot glasses out of it because that's what I feel guys in garages with power tools need. Shot glasses. I don't know why, but I attempted to square up the sides. It isn't necessary, but I wanted to do it anyway because I got it into my head for some reason that that's what I needed to do. I tried, and repeatedly failed, to place the cylinder between the tailstock and the headstock while using a spur center. Obviously, this wasn't ever going to square it up. The result of trying to do this task that was not required is that I ended up losing some wood off of the edges, and I reduced the diameter of the spindle by at least a half an inch. Eventually, I tried to get it set so that I could mount it onto the Nova 2 chuck with the tenon, but the tenon would have to be almost the same size and diameter as the current size of the piece anyway. That would make the tenon irrelevant. In any case, I will at some point get back to this piece. I think I can still salvage enough of this project to get 2 shot glasses out of it. We'll see someday. After I had failed at the shot glasses, I decided I'd try something easier. Since I was brand new, I thought something smaller would be easier. Spoiler, that's not how this works. Smaller things are harder to turn. It's a piece of cherry from my family tree. And it seemed fun because my grandma and my mom both loved toys, so it seemed appropriate to me. Besides, it's a child's toy. What could be hard about this? Here's what's left of my top. You can see here where I got a catch on it, and I bit into it pretty good. It went flying and it nailed me right in the face. It hit me on the front of my forehead and it got me pretty good, but luckily it didn't cut me or leave me a lemon or anything. Thankfully, I always wear at least my regular eyeglasses. I usually wear goggles or a face shield too. But this definitely taught me to keep that habit up. You should too. I think this piece is salvageable as well, but probably not at my current skill level. It'll have to wait. This is another piece of cherry from my cherry trees. This too was supposed to be a shot glass. I realize shot glasses come up a lot in this video, but that's because I have yet to make one correctly. They also seem easy to make, and they might be good gifts if I ever stop messing them up. I plan to make a lot of them. Actually, I'd settle for one right now. This piece is now about 2 3/4 inches tall, and about 1.5 inches wide. When I was working on it, it got a little small, and I don't think it'll hold a complete shot anymore. I also had this small foot on it while I was turning it, where I had planned to part it off. But then I decided I liked the foot on it and the way that it looked. I decided I wanted to keep it. At first I tried to figure out how to part off the foot, but ultimately there was no way possible for me to get into the waste wood enough to safely part it from the lathe without risking getting my tool caught in it. I really have no idea how to go about getting it parted correctly, so maybe I'll figure out how to set it in epoxy or some other waste wood. Maybe I'll find some other method for preserving the foot while I part it from the tenon later. One thing I really was proud of, and I liked about this piece a lot, is that it's very thin. It might be 2 fingernails thick. It's really, really thin. I liked this because it took patience and also because it makes for an interesting feel on the wood. Hopefully one day I can recover this piece and show you all how it turns out. The last failure I want to show you is this. It's a bowl made out of aspen. Why it's a failure is because I was trying to make a bowl that was food safe. To that end, I wanted a food safe finish on it, and the only one I'm aware of that's FDA tested is Salad Bowl Finish by General Finishes. On top of it being food safe, I was told that you could get a glass-like finish with it if you did it correctly, even though it's supposed to be a satin finish product. The technique for this was somewhat nuanced and involved, and since I have even less experience with finishes than I have with wood turning, this was over my head. I probably should have gone with the satin finish the product was made for, which also looks great, by the way. Or I could have gone with an oil finish or a beeswax finish, something simple and easy. This was just too much for a newbie to be learning all at once. Every tool I touch, I'm still learning about, plus video and editing software. So this was a bit too much to take on at the start. Here's how it came out though. You can see from the finish that it's certainly glossier than a satin finish, but that's because it got finished off with paste wax at the end. Paste wax, as I'm sure some of you know, is a petroleum-based product, and it's toxic. As a result of using the paste wax, the bowl's not food safe, and it won't ever be. It's a change jar now. The finish doesn't look bad though, and it's really durable. I also don't like how the bottom was finished. It's not finished hardly at all, and I'm worried about what that will do to the piece over time. This was the result of how I started the project. I used the 3-inch faceplate and screwed the piece in place, instead of using the Supernova 2 chuck, which I might not have even had when the project started. I really don't recall. The Supernova 2 would have allowed me to use a reverse tenon mount so that I could have finished the bottom of the bowl properly and then turned it around and completed the hollowing and finishing on the outside. Because of how I mounted the faceplate, in order to part the bowl I had to go in with the parting tool at a bit of a concave angle as best I could. This was a pretty tight fit though, as you can see by looking at the faceplate. The screws in the back of the faceplate extend into the wood a fair distance, and in this picture, it's rubbing right up against the edge of the wood. Hitting one of these with my parting tool would have been disastrous to the project and potentially pretty dangerous too. Ultimately, I wasn't able to get it parted the way I wanted, and I wasn't able to get it sealed on the bottom. It doesn't have the finish on it that I wanted, and the symbol on the bottom looks pretty bad. The bowl can't be used for food like candy or something. Not that that's a big deal, but I had set out to make one that could. Those are some of my failures. I'd also like to show you one of my victories. Behold. That's right, it's the failure bowl. Because while a lot went wrong with this bowl, a lot went right too. For starters, this is the first project I ever completed. That's a pretty massive win. And genuinely, it's not a bad looking bowl. I'm actually pretty happy with the way it came out. I've dropped it, and it didn't blemish, so it's durable. It's got good coloration, and it has some natural dark lines that run through the bowl. The natural grain of the wood is better than I anticipated. It has at least some chatoyance to it, which is the reflective nature of certain woods like what you might get from a tiger's eye rock. This bowl also had a crack in it that appeared when I was turning it, But I was able to take some cherry wood dust and some CA glue, mix them together, and glue it back up. It actually looks pretty natural to me, and because of the other dark lines in the wood, I don't think most people would see it until I pointed it out. I'm actually kind of happy that I was able to get the glue to seep into the wood and the cracks so well, and that it came out looking very natural. If I'd used aspen shavings or dust instead, I really don't think it would be distinguishable from the natural wood, so this is encouraging to me. Next, this is not a rounded bottom bowl. This is a flat bottom bowl. I just kind of did it, and I didn't even mean to do it. It just seemed to me like it ought to be that way. It didn't even occur to me to have a rounded bottom to this bowl. I'm fairly certain that this made my life at least a little bit harder, but I did get it nice and flat, and it's level, and it came out even, so I'm pretty happy with that too. Although it's hard to see here, the lip of the bowl is not beveled. It's actually an angular cut. It's cut at 45 degrees, then 45 degrees again, and then another 45 degrees to go back down into the bowl. This is not a rounded lip. It's a chamfered lip, chamfered at angles of 45 degrees. Getting that spacing right was hard since I was only using my eyeballs, and I think it came out pretty nice. I used the same chamfer technique on the base in order to create a nice foot on the bowl as well, and that design is one that I don't typically see on bowl videos. It made me feel good that I was creating something all on my own instead of simply copying what somebody else did before me. I didn't just follow instructions. And although it's messy as all get out, I did get my symbol, mark, brand, whatever that is, in here, and I was able to burn it into the base of the wood without starting a fire. I admit the bottom of the bowl doesn't look all that great, but honestly, who's going to see that other than people I show it to? It's pretty solid as bowls go. It looks good to my eye. Frankly, I think it's a pretty good bowl. I use it for my keys and my wallet now, and it fits nicely on the mantle near the door. And really, that's about all I have to share today. Several failures and one win. Hopefully I have more to share soon, whether they're wins, failures, or a little bit of both. When I do, I hope you'll be back.